So we are here at the Cloud Foundry Summit in Boston, and today we have Dan from SAP. Before we kind of deep dive into this interview, can you quickly introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Dan Lahl, and I look after SAP Cloud Platform Product Marketing at SAP. Been in the industry a long time, and a lot of database, a lot of mobility, cloud, so a lot of areas covered.
Right. We talked, I think, a few weeks ago or months ago, and we touched upon the work that SAP is doing in the open source space. Can you quickly touch upon what's going on in the?
Yeah, it's really exciting what SAP is doing. So historically, SAP has not embraced open source, and now we're fully embracing it. So we were one of the founding members of Cloud Foundry. Folks don't realize that, but we helped the Cloud Foundry Foundation come together with Pivotal and IBM and others. So we are a founding member, platinum member. We are contributing to the community, not only with number of contributors, but contributions active in other people's incubations and submissions, but also submitting our own. So AutoSleep and AutoScale and Abacus either were sourced from us or we're jointly participating with other vendors. So we're all in on Cloud Foundry.
In addition to Cloud Foundry, what are the other open source projects that you're involved in?
So we're also involved in the Cloud Native as well, and then the Open API initiative as well. So those are three things we think are really critical going forward for any open source, any open community. The ability to have an open paths, the ability to make sure open APIs permeate throughout the industry, and making sure that Cloud Native takes off the way it should. So, and the interesting thing about Cloud Native and Kubernetes and then Cloud Foundry is I think it's up to us as leaders in the community and other vendors as well to make sure that it's not an either-or decision between things like Cloud Foundry and Kubernetes, but actually how do we make those technologies work together so that customers don't have to make trade-off choices for deploying applications. So that's really big. And we're actually a founding member of, we're a platinum member and board member of CNCF.
Right.
Yeah.
In this space, a lot of things are happening, like 2 or 3 weeks ago, CNCF came up with a white paper around serverless computing. So a lot of things are changing. SAP has been around for, I think, what, 45 or something?
46 years.
Yeah,
yes.
you predate even Linux, you know.
Yeah.
So how do you see the evolution of these technologies? Do you think a lot is happening now, or it has always been happening?
I think the computer industry is awesome, the IT industry is awesome, because we just keep reinventing the same ideas again and again and again and implementing them with new technologies, okay? The first function I wrote was 1977 in Fortran, okay? So, you know, functional
That's
computing.
the year I was born.
Okay, yeah. COBOL has something called copybooks, which is basically a function that you pulled into other COBOL programs, okay? So it's nothing new under the sun. We think the way it's being deployed on the cloud will make it much easier for customers to consume this and make it happen. It'll be easier than it was in the past, but the concepts are not new. Okay, so we think serverless is great. Utilizing only the resources you need when you need them is the right thing. Not something new, but again, in the cloud, it's a new implementation.
Right. But can serverless be like, it's not a silver bullet, you know, suddenly it's not the new form, just the way we saw from virtual machines to containers, you know, you can, but it's like serverless totally, I don't think it's like answer to all the...
Come on, isn't every new trend the answer to everything? No, it's the answer to some things, right? And so the way we look at Cloud Foundry and serverless, Cloud Foundry is great for 12-factor applications. Serverless is great for stateless applications. There are different types of applications, right? So different horses for different courses. So it'll be popular. We think it's awesome. It's a fit in the mix. And I think when you see Kubernetes and Cloud Foundry come together, I think you'll see the mix of the 12-factor and the stateless coming together. So we're excited about that too. And we've got some projects going on that we're going to propose to the Cloud Foundry Foundation for helping to bring Kubernetes and Cloud Foundry closer together.
They also work on a project called Cubo, which was Bosch and Cubo, you know, bringing together. Though it was renamed, I think it's because of Disney or copyright.
Cloud
Foundry runtime.
Cloud Foundry runtime, and yeah. So that's using Bosch, basically having Cloud Foundry and Kubernetes sit side by side with Bosch, negotiating between as a service broker between the two. Really interesting what IBM announced yesterday, which was Cloud Foundry as a service on IBM Cloud. Interesting what SUSE just announced, which was Cloud Foundry inside of Kubernetes. I think you'll see us go somewhere from an SAP standpoint in the future, somewhere closer to where SUSE is going.
Right. So what you're proposing to Cloud Foundry to bring, so how different is it from what they have already done with the Bosch? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, we're not sure that a side-by-side is the best thing for all customers. And that's being discussed at the Cloud Foundry board level today. And so our viewpoint is that why not take all the goodness of the application deployment capabilities that you have in Cloud Foundry and the goodness you have for deploying that into a container, which means you would run Cloud Foundry inside of the container system to deploy all the apps. Okay? So that's kind of where we would like to see things go. And you know, we're working with the foundation to make that happen. And IBM is with us, SUSE is with us, and there again, there's some things we want to put up as an incubation suggestion or incubation project to make that happen.
What kind of processes are there within Cloud Foundry? Like incubation, I have heard a lot in Apache Software Foundation, they have these different stages. What is the process?
Same kind of thing. You propose an incubation, it's accepted, then people come on board and you get committers to come on board, you commit to the project, you try and get a number of vendors lined up with you so that it's not just a single vendor doing it, right? You want to get multiple vendors doing it. So in our case, what I just described, we have IBM and SUSE already with us on that. We'd love Pivotal to come along with us as well, you know. So there might be some question as to what happens to Bosch there, and Pivotal is the
they have vested interest,
the mother of Bosch. Exactly. Say that, right? So there's some still discussions.
I mean, you can call Pivotal as a mother of Cloud Foundry as well. You know,
we can. And who says that you can't have a Bosch implementation where Cloud Foundry and Kubernetes work together, as well as the Cloud Foundry running inside of a Kubernetes container as a separate distribution, right? So not all Cloud Foundry distributions have to be exactly the same, right? So we could have some that implement through Bosch, some that don't, So we'll see what happens.
And in addition to that, do you see any other areas where Cloud Foundry predates Docker, you know, but you know there are a lot of things that are too new even in this space. So do you think that, you know, just the way you are trying to bring Kubernetes together, any other area where you think that Cloud Foundry and some other technologies should also come together, work together? Any challenges that the customers face?
Well, you know, there's a lot of different areas where Cloud Foundry is operating. You saw today. Pivotal talked about Cloud Foundry local. So there's a great opportunity for putting developer local machines. I think as you see over time, as this community grows and matures, right now Cloud Foundry is pretty much an innovator community, right? And as the community goes into the main hump of deployment for cloud, I think you're going to have to see more abstraction happen. So I think what SUSE announced today, I believe it was a SUSE gentleman, announced a UI above the CLI, right? So he announced a graphical user interface that sits above the CLI and automatically deploys for your CLI. So I think you will see over time a number of abstractions up as Cloud Foundry gets more and more not more mature, but adopted by more of the bulk of the community of the business world or corporations. You'll see that there'll be more abstractions, and that's kind of been our direction all along. Is we don't expose Bosch in SAP Cloud Platform. We expect to talk to application developers, not really system admins or system developers. And we think that's where the bulk of the market really wants to be. They don't want to be doing VMs, right? They don't want to be apportioning VMs. They don't want to have to be doing some of the low-level things that Cloud Foundry does today. I think what they want to see is give an application developer a service for integration or mobile development or low-code development, and then deploy that very quickly and let all the things, all the goodness below in Cloud Foundry deploy that for them, not having them do the work. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know if I have asked this question or not, but what are you doing here at Cloud Foundry? What is the new exciting things, you know? I'm sure that there are no announcements that coming out, but what's cooking?
Yeah, so a lot around multi-target applications, so we're doing that. So either multi-applications that you build into a container to deploy on Cloud Foundry, or multi-targets that you build. So as you know, our strategy is run SAP Cloud Platform, which is Cloud Foundry based, run that on AWS or Azure or GCP, and then hopefully later on others. And this multi-target application is one of the things we're talking about. So deploy it, build it once, deploy it on multiple different IaaS layers. Right. So that's fun stuff. And then we're also talking about this project that we're trying to get to incubation and that I described before.
What is there any timeline or deadline you have in mind that by that time it will?
We would love to see something come out by end of year.
But it depends on the community, right?
It depends on the community, right? It depends on how many people we get working on the project, how fast we could incubate it, how many people commit to come along, that kind of thing. And then if you look at what we'll announce later this year, we have some really cool things coming that we'll announce that will help manage many, many different pods, many different container systems for Kubernetes. So you'll see that coming later this year as well from SAP. That's a really cool thing we've got cooking in the labs, and it's our plan to open source that as well. So if you think about SAP, embracing open source, participating in open source, creating open source projects, 10 years ago that was a no-no at SAP. Now we're totally shifted, totally
What is driving this shift?
We have to. We have to. If we want to participate with all the developers in the world, and we want people developing off of SAP applications and extending our applications and building new applications that fit with our applications, we have to embrace the open source world. Have to embrace it. So. Yeah.
I recall when Sam Ramji was still at Cloud Foundry, and I talked to him, and he was like, in 5 years, we won't even be using the term open source, because the open source will become the default de facto software development model. When you say so, especially enterprise open software, it would mean it's open source.
Yeah, by definition.
By definition.
And I agree with him.
We are
1,000%. From an app dev standpoint, 1,000%.
Yeah. Today we don't ask what is open. We ask what is not open source.
Exactly.
And why.
Exactly. Why isn't it open?
Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
Anything else you would like to?
No, I think that's it. I think we're really pushing on that integration of Cloud Foundry and Kubernetes. We're really committed to the community. We're looking at incubating new projects with Cloud Foundry and with others. So we think it's vibrant, we think it's growing, and we think it's got a great, great future ahead of it.
One last question before I let you go is that it was mentioned yesterday also during keynote, was that there are very few players, you know, when you look at the distribution, you know, mostly it's either dominated by the players who created Cloud Foundry. So what do you have to say about that? You know, either the healthy competition and healthy environment there. Do you think it's okay, or we need to grow more than that?
So I think Cloud Foundry is committed to growing as well, and I think they're committed to growing not just through vendors, but also through customers. And the more customers that come in and propose new projects or come along and contribute on projects, I think that will lessen some of the vendor, you know, the vendor, I don't want to say problems, but you know, the vendor squabbling over things that don't matter, right? So I think there has been some of that in the past, and again, I think the Cloud Foundry Foundation is doing the right thing. They're getting end users coming in. End users will always do the right thing for their business.
And they also drive a lot of innovation and changes that are needed.
Exactly. And they're vendor neutral, right? So they're vendor agnostic.
They would love, they don't want to be.
They don't care.
And they don't want to get locked either way. So
exactly. So I think that's a positive thing that they're doing.
Awesome. I think we whatever time we had, we made the best use out of it.
Absolutely.
And hopefully we'll see you again at some next open source event.
We'd love that. That'd be awesome, Swapnil. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good.